Raidieraksts Drošinātājs.
You were born in the Soviet Union, but then you moved to the United States when you were little. But main question is, what is your connection to Ukraine, and why do you care about Ukraine?
Right. My family was from Ukraine. My roots are Ukrainian and Jewish Ukrainian, from the cities of Uman, Odessa, and one great-grandmother was born in the town of Priluki. At some point, some of them have moved around the Soviet Union. And so when I was little, some of my family was still around, and I used to spend a lot of time in Odessa. However, even if that didn't happen, I probably would still be here, as I believe this is the right thing to do for a journalist to cover, and for a writer, because I am a writer, to cover the Russian war crimes here, and by doing this help Ukraine win.
So you can say you are permanently living there right now for unknown period of time in the future?
I've been living here since the start of the full-scale invasion. So I've been here for 3 years and more, 3.5 years. And I visited home, which is the United States, twice. And I cannot tell right now what will happen in the future, because during the war it's very, very difficult to make plans.
Can you say right now that, at least for now, your home is Ukraine? Do you feel that your home is there, or is it still in the US?
I feel a bit homeless at the moment. I certainly feel very much at home. I get a home feeling being in Kherson and Odessa. I love these two cities with all my heart, and Odessa has this family and childhood connection. So you may say that it's home in a way, but technically, I suppose it is not. So yeah, it's difficult to say.
But for now, you are based in Kherson or Odessa?
Yes. That's correct. I spend a lot of time, actually, right now, next week will be a 2-year anniversary of my basically living in Kherson or being based here.
Well, at first, as a journalist, as I understand, you reported from different regions of Ukraine, but then you moved to Kherson. Why exactly this city?
So when I just came back to Ukraine to report, I moved to Odessa because, again, it was my childhood city, and I had some friends there, and I just love it. And I started by interviewing refugees or people who were relocating there, a lot of them from Kherson. And I went to report from Donbass and just along the front line, really. And then I made a first film, co-produced it with my colleagues from Byline Times. That's the British newspaper I write for. And we did a part of that film in Kherson and part of it in Donbass. And that's when I realized that I want to make a film about Kherson. And my first time in Kherson was on the 14th of November of 2022. That was 3 days after its official liberation, and the very first day when it was allowed for the foreign journalists to enter Kherson. And that was a very, very special day for everyone here, but also for me, because I didn't realize it then, but it kind of also shaped my life path, so to say. And as Kherson became sort of my home as well.
How do you felt back then in those days between all those people in the streets?
Well, I feel like I speak about it a lot. There's a lot of interviews and I always talk about it, and I never get tired of speaking about it because it was really one of the most special days in my life. And I'm talking both personally and publicly. Publicly, as a public person, it definitely was the most special day in my life. It was just such a state of joy, and that was a day when freedom was palpable. Each time I'm trying to find the new words for it, and each time I do. I mean, now it's a cherished memory. You could feel freedom, and everybody I spoke to was telling me that they can breathe, that for 9 months that Russians were here, they could not breathe. And the air was just simply delicious and sweet with freedom. It's hard to put in words. It was not cheesy at all. It was very sincere and genuine, and you felt it physically while there. And that I compared it many times to the euphoria of falling in love, something similar.
Well, it's been more than 2 years since the liberation. What do you notice about the people living in the city? At first, when the city was liberated, many probably had, like you said, this euphoria and a feeling that Ukraine would push Russia even further out from Ukraine. What has changed if we compare this feeling back then and how it is now?
Yeah, that is a very, very difficult and hard, emotionally hard transition from the state of hope to the state of extreme fatigue and still hope. People are still hopeful. They have not lost the spirit, but it's becoming more and more difficult because the shelling, bombing, and now something that is known as human safari, small drones hunting civilians down the streets, have been going on for several years by now. And practically every building in Kherson has been hit, destroyed or damaged, or at the very least hit by a shock wave. There are hardly any windows left. Kherson is now being called the city of wooden windows because plywood is covering most of the windows and some of the facades. The pavements are covered with broken glass and dead birds, and also anti-infantry mines hiding in the leaves. And right now it's fall, so leaves are falling down. And here it means that you need to look down because you can step on a mine, but you also need to look up because soon there will be no place to hide from the drones hunting you in the street. And of course, you know, it's hard to keep the spirits up in a situation like this. But Kherson stands. It's still strong. It's still invincible. They call themselves invincible, and these are the hands-down strongest people I've seen in my whole entire life.
Have people gotten used to the dangers of drones and shelling, and has the fear somehow maybe, disappeared somewhere? When we speak also with our guests, sometimes they also say that this shelling is almost every day, and we don't go to the shelters anymore. We just live like we used to, and we get used to this. So how it is in Kherson?
Well, in Kherson, it's not almost every day. It's every day, and it's almost every hour. So when there, say, 2 hours go without any explosions, everybody starts getting very tense and anxious because that means something major is coming. there's something, either a drone or artillery or tank or mortar, and from time to time aerial bombs all the time. So obviously, humans are very adaptable and people get used to it. And also you have to carry on. You can't stop when it's every hour. You'll be stopped all the time. You will not go anywhere. And actually, there are some people who don't go anywhere and try to stay inside all of the time. And I think it depends on a person. I hear different stories, different reports. Some people are afraid. I think most people are afraid, but found different ways of dealing with their fear. The other day, I was interviewing a lady in Antonievka, which is hands down the most dangerous area, I think maybe comparable to the island, and we can cover that a little bit, the different areas in Kherson, but these are areas close to the river and therefore the most dangerous. And so I'm talking to this lady who's in her 80s, I want to say late 80s, and she has 20 goats. She's a shepherd. And I asked her, she was heading to her goats, and I asked her if she was afraid, and she said, well, everyone is afraid, but everyone hopes. And I say that is true. And for myself or my colleagues, journalists who are amazing here, this amazing, fearless, brilliant group of local journalists who are here every day covering the destruction, most are saying that while you work, you don't experience fear, you don't feel it, you're just doing your work. And I have the same adaptation and the defense mechanism. But then there will be moments when you're not working, say when you're editing, and when you would be moved or think back and think differently.
Yeah, my next question was how intense is your work reporting, especially from this place, from Kherson, how difficult it is to work as a journalist there. So on one hand, you experience most of the time no fear, but how practically maybe difficult it is, if not, of course, emotionally as well.
Well, like we have mentioned already, that's the job, so you just do your job, and it's of course sad that our job, me, like myself and my colleagues, are now covering some horrible events and often deaths or injuries. I would prefer to cover something different. I am a writer, I love art. I would love to cover theater performances or poetry festivals, and we do, because there's a lot of this going on in Kherson. It's all underground in bomb shelters, and we do cover the rich cultural life in Kherson as well. But it's very important to get the word out, to get the facts out. We are the voice of Kherson, of Ukraine, and so this job becomes very important. And I think that's the main sentiment, and how I personally feel about it is simply not that important. I don't know, I think the human psyche is built the way that you do store the stress, and maybe eventually after victory, I will have to deal with something, not sure what, but for now, I'm just going on with my work, and in some way, I'm happy that I'm equipped, say, linguistically and physically, to be here and cover these war crimes and report them to the world.
Well, considering that you have been working in Ukraine for quite some time, is there Still, anything that surprises you even now when reporting on Russia's actions in Ukraine or speaking with people and so on?
Well, Russians do not surprise me anymore. I think they went so low. So, I mean, you still can be shocked and upset, but nothing they can do can surprise me. This nation really lost its sanity and morality, and basically what I have seen and reported in 3 years, and not just in Kherson, but around Ukraine, it's I can only compare it to being in some sick zoo with the rabid animals, where you obviously not going to be surprised at the brutality of their acts. What does surprise me still, and in a good way, the Ukrainians who are unbelievable. I have not lost this ability to be surprised. Like you would be literally driving across a bridge which has 2 giant pits, holes in it, with the drones above you, to get to the place where only 200 people are left, and that's called Island, the Ostrov, in Kherson, and they don't have electricity, gas, and they only have water 2 hours a day, and it's not drinking water, mind you, it's technical water. And you know what they do? They water their gardens with this water. So while drones are still there and artillery attacks are going on, but they tend to their gardens and they feed their animals and refuse to leave without their cats and dogs, and some are even pigeons who they feel they're responsible for. And also in Kherson, like I've mentioned before, the cultural life, the sports life are ongoing. There are all kind of classes from dance to boxing, and there are theater premieres and English clubs, book clubs, people paint, draw, and to maintain this ability when a trip to a library can cost you your life or a limb, I'm still surprised at that, and in a good way, and very inspiring. I find it very inspiring.
Speaking more about the work of the media and how they cover what is happening in Ukraine, well, there are also those opinions in society that, you know, during the war you should not report anything bad about Ukraine, for example, about some corruption activities or things like that, because it somehow maybe can benefit to Russia. I wanted to ask you, what is good journalism for you if we speak about reporting on what is happening in Ukraine? How would you describe?
Right, thank you. It's a great question, and it's a great dilemma. And it's always something that requires thinking and analysis, and there are many opinions, and I have many friends here and journalist friends, I mean my colleagues, and everybody has a different take on it. Ukraine is truly a very democratic country, in a way that there are as many opinions as there are people, and they're very outspoken, and there are a lot of arguments and people clash. My personal position is I'm a foreign journalist here. I write and film in English for American and British and European audiences. And my audiences are not savvy and not knowledgeable about the intricate internal politics in Ukraine. So for me, covering some arguments or disagreements in the local government, in say Kherson regional administration, would not be beneficial. Nobody can change that abroad, and nobody should be changing that abroad. And I simply will lose my audience because they will not be interested. So I focus on reporting Russian war crimes and also the heroism of Ukrainian people. These are two aspects that clearly have value in reporting. I do my best to be impartial still. And there are, of course, no country is ideal. And there are, especially during war times, many problems. So I always cover the complexity as well as the, inspiring quality of Ukrainian people, right? But I do not report on, say, Ukrainian cases of corruption. It's not my specialty. It's not my forte. I don't know enough about it. And I also believe that this is something for the local Ukrainian journalists to sort out. When do they do it, now or after victory? It's for them to decide. And sometimes this position is not easy to explain because people here in Kherson know me by now and know my work, and they come to me with some internal problems and ask me to write about it or to cover it. And I have to explain that this is not my place to do that.
Speaking about documentaries, speaking about reporting from the front line, for example, or reporting at all in Ukraine, how much do you think journalists have this ability to influence maybe not only the societies, but also decision makers in the West to do something more for Ukraine?
Another great question. I believe that it's possible. I recently finished a documentary I have been working on for 2 years. It's called Kherson Human Safari, and it covers the whole history of Kherson during the full-scale invasion, from the moment of the invasion and all the way through the June of 2025. And our crew has taken a decision to release the film free of charge, so the whole global community can see it. It's streaming from the website. It's called KhersonHumanSafari.com. And we are also doing free screenings all around the world. And we were very lucky because a lot of volunteers in Europe and America, in Australia now, organizing these screenings. And we involve politicians. And right now I'm working on the screening for the government of the United States, for the members of our Senate and Congress. It should be happening sometimes in October. And I also spoke to the Bundestag twice about Human Safari and the situation in Kherson. And while presenting, I put together, based on the guidelines and wish lists of the military and locals, the list of aid and what's needed to help Kherson, and delivered it to the German politicians. And I believe it was also, if not completely, but partially used for help. And I spoke to some other politicians. So, yeah, the answer is absolutely. And while I still don't see myself, I'm definitely not an activist, I'm a journalist, but our reporting and our documentaries, the film, can be used for advocacy, and it can become a weapon in the information warfare and an active tool for saving Kherson, I hope.
And you already mentioned before this documentary also about Eastern Ukraine. Maybe you can tell me about a little bit about this documentary as well before we speak about Human Safari.
Right. So the first film we made with my colleagues from Byline Times was called Under Deadly Skies. Its first title was Eastern Front, and I guess both described it accurately. And that documentary focused on the false Russian narratives. Namely, they were claiming that they do not use chemical weapons and they do not torture civilians or prisoners of war, and they do not target residential areas and civilians. So we were in Donbass and Kherson showing the use of chemical weapons in both locations. And then in Dnipro, we filmed at the site of destruction of a residential complex where I believe 50 people died. I can't remember right now. Were killed by a Russian ballistic missile. And in Kherson, we were filming in the former Russian basements used for torture, as torture chambers. And that was another subject that I have explored even before that documentary, also in the liberated areas in Kharkov region and also in Kyiv region. And there's a lot of torture chambers there. So I interviewed the survivors and victims of Russian torture, and there were a lot of them here in Kherson. So our film covered these three aspects, and it won several awards. It was directed by Kaylin Robinson. He's a journalist, independent journalist, and a very talented director. And that gave me an idea that Kherson should also have its own film.
We know that there are various documentaries made during the war in different kinds of regions, and you chose specifically Kherson. And this documentary, I guess, is also a way to document history and also to preserve all these evidence of crimes. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So there are several ways in which the film, I hope, will be useful or will have significance. And so one of them is informing the global community about the war crimes happening here and about this epic story of Kherson. And the second one is, like you said, materials for tribunals. And of course, there are much more archived footage that didn't make it into the 72 minutes of the film. We had to cut a lot. We have hours and hours of footage and interviews, and these are eyewitnesses, survivors, victims of Russian aggression. And in a way, some of my interviews and materials already helped, because both the United Nations team and the Human Rights Watch teams used my contacts for their independent research on human safari, the drones hunting civilians. And in May and June 2025, they've completed their work and concluded that human safari is indeed war crime and crime against humanity, which means in turn that the Russian military commandment and government could be eventually put on trial in The Hague. And that is something that I would very much like to see and hope that my materials will help and already helped. And there was another use that I didn't think of, but apparently the people of Kherson found the film resonating with them, and they had their own screenings that they used for healing and group therapy. Which that meant a lot to me, and I didn't see it coming. And during the premiere in Kherson situation, the atmosphere was very difficult for me and for everyone. Everybody was crying, and I felt bad because I thought that, I didn't realize that I would be adding pain to the pain that these people already have experienced through years. But after the premiere, everybody said that this is useful and everybody should see it. And basically, these were the tears that they welcomed. And there's a pragmatic use of the film, which I also didn't intend for, but it's working. Many people in the West or just around the world watching the film want to help right away. So we were able to get funds to help people in Kherson. This film, this project is not commercial. We had funding from a private donor, so we didn't need to pay anybody back. There was no debt. And so all the donations that we are collecting from the film going straight back to relocating families with animals, families with children and with handicapped people, and also buying anti-drone protection and defense, various types, from drone detectors to cars and electronic warfare devices and so forth.
If we speak about this title of this documentary, Human Safari, why such a title? Is it because specifically because of the Russian drones, or why?
Yes, so my idea was just call it Kherson, sort of like Casablanca or Munich, but our editor had this idea to use Human Safari. Artem Tinsky, our editor, works for Suspilne Odessa, that's the public television in Ukraine, and he generally had a lot of great ideas. And first I was reluctant. I wanted a very laconic title, but then I saw his point, because a human safari is a term that people in Kherson came up with in Ukrainian, полювання на людей, and I just translated it as a human safari. And it so happened that at the time when the story was evolving, I was the only foreign journalist based and living in Kherson. So it happened so that I broke the story, and I've been writing about human safari since then, trying to get the world acknowledged that this is indeed happening. And the term stuck. And now I think it's getting more and more widely known. And while human safari is not the only tragedy, not the only calamity that happened to Kherson, there was invasion and occupation and flood, and then scorched earth strategy, which is aerial bombs hitting the residential areas, and just basically carpet bombing of some areas like Antonievka. But human safari is very specific, and it's new, so it feels more horrendous because it's a new form of warfare. Not on such scale, at least, in modern history. So, in a way, everything in Kherson is human safari. It's a hunt on the people. It's the destruction of humans.
Yeah, well, that was my thought watching this movie. It seems this safari and this hunting, we can attribute it to also this events that happened before. At first they hunted those who resisted, then after the liberation they hunted people with missiles, and they're still doing it, and now also with drones. So
I agree. It's like, I'm a writer, and before this I've been just writing books, and that happens with a good title. It takes on all the different meanings and starts living its own life. So I think it's the same that is happening here.
Well, there are different stories in this movie, each of whom experienced the war differently. Did any of the stories appeal to you in particular, like maybe stuck in your mind for a long period of time, longer than other stories maybe?
No, they all do. They, in a way, each story is unique and special and stuck with me forever. But also all together, it's like a Greek choir, all the voices come together telling the story of Kherson. So, and each one is as special and precious as possible to be. And I only regret that there are other stories that just didn't make it into the film because of the time constraints. There is so many. Really, everyone I speak here in Kherson has a story worth a novel. Every single person, and not just a person, a cat or a dog. I mean, this city has been through so much that if somebody, some script writer in Hollywood made up the story, nobody would believe it, and everybody would say, no, it's too much. That just doesn't happen in life. But that's life. That's what's still happening. Like right now, I'm smelling that something is burning really badly, probably nearby. And I hear the explosions, and that could be the beginning of a new story. This morning, the Central Market burned down, and I was filming something that looked totally apocalyptic. And every day there's something new.
Like I said, there were different kinds of stories. Each person has their own story. But is there something that unites all the stories, and what is it?
I think, not to sound like a cliche, but there is such thing as a Kherson spirit. I feel it. I feel it in these people, in these stories, in all people, and in all stories here. They are invincible, in a way. They are. I don't know. It's hard to describe it, but in 2 years of being here, I just see them bouncing back no matter what. Like their houses would be destroyed again and again and again, and then they get up and they fix things, or they move to another place and fix a new place. There was a restaurant launched here last month. And it's a beautiful place, and I think it's quite heroic because any minute this restaurant can stop existing, like all the other restaurants that were bombed or stopped existing physically. And I don't mean just closed as businesses, but they were just destroyed by bombs. And it takes such strength and power of spirit and willpower. And I have mentioned it before, there's a graffiti on the main square. The main square is called the Freedom Square and is facing the prospect of independence. And all of this, not just empty sounds here. There is the main street is the street of independence. And the main street with this beautiful and completely destroyed building for now is a Freedom Square, and on the corner there's a graffiti that says "Моя є моя воля," which in Ukrainian means "For I am my own will," and that's what I find unites people here one way or another, even if they are also different. This will to not just survive, but to survive with dignity, overcome, and get back to dignified, full, enjoyable life. And it's a very strong will, the strongest I've seen, and it's very appealing.
And I understand that you did not specifically look for the heroes of this movie, but all these people were simply, like you were simply encountering them in your daily life and asked them to tell their stories, yes?
Yeah, like, you when you live somewhere, you just naturally develop relationship with your neighbors, your friends, people you go to, I don't know, shopping or yoga studio or theater, poetry readings, and then you start talking, and then you start filming, and I guess a lot of it I was filming just with my phone, so it's easier on people. It's not as formal as a sit-down interview, and there's more trust, and so people just start sharing their deep stories, their secrets sometimes, something they were not willing to share right away. And yeah, that's how this film came to be.
War as a whole, and war in Ukraine, of course, as well. Whether you like it or not, it leaves its mark on every people who experience it. And do you feel that the war has affected you emotionally and left also some lasting effects on you?
It must have had, but it's not the past perfect tense yet. It's ongoing, so it's probably leaving its mark on me now. Today was a harsh day to see all these people who lost everything, and to speak to a woman whose husband is a soldier in Donetsk, in Kramatorsk, Donetsk region, and who already lost her home because of a Russian aerial bomb. And today, this morning, she lost her shoe store, which she had at the market. And then another woman who could hardly speak. It's hard. It's called moral injury, right, in psychology. And right now, I think I'm dealing with it because I can tell their story. I can edit it. I can translate it, I can write about it, and I can share the video once it's edited, and everybody will see it. And a lot of people do see it, and therefore the moral injury is not as unbearable because I'm doing something nonstop. And as a result, it's very hard to stop working, because the moment I'm not working, I feel this guilt, and that's probably is the mark of the war, because I'd like to stop sometimes, and it's not easy.
You feel, I guess, also some kind of obligation to do this, right?
Yeah, as a journalist, as a writer, and as a human. Yeah.
And you spoke about how people reacted in Kherson when you presented this movie, but what kind of reaction did you get abroad when this movie was shown? And the reaction, different countries where, I don't know, somewhere maybe people were more surprised or shocked than in other places?
The reaction is definitely different, and that's why the reaction in Kherson was not what I expected, because I did already several screenings in the States. Because it's only 2 months that we have released the film. So we released it on the 27th of June. So it was July and August. And so we had screenings in Dallas, Riga, and for those I was in person. And people were moved, and many people said that they did not know that, and they did not expect it. And it was enlightening to them, but also many people said it was inspiring because of the strengths that our heroes, our people featured in the film showed. And I guess in Kherson, people did not find any of this inspiring. They were just upset, reliving all the hardship that happened to them. So it was different that way. And by now we've done screenings in Bonn and Paris, Grenoble, some other places, and many more are forthcoming now. Iowa, New York, and there are so many schedules that I'm right now having a hard time remembering all of them, which makes me feel bad because they're all very special to me, and that's what I want to happen. I want everybody to see it. But I think, say, in Latvia, I was very grateful because there's so much support for Ukraine, the Ukrainian flags everywhere. There were people who came to the screening with gifts and some handwritten notes to bring to Kherson. And it was very, very warm welcome. And it felt very, very special. While, say, in Dallas, people were very supportive, but it did not have that depth of knowledge. They did not know what they were going to see.
Do you think that if by some miracle people in Russia saw the movie, would they start to wonder about what their country is doing in Ukraine, or this level of propaganda that this population has been fed is too big to even start to think about these things, even if they saw it?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. I do not know many Russians living in Russia. I haven't visited it forever. I don't have any friends or relatives. I don't speak to anyone there. So I did speak to some prisoners of war in Ukraine. They seem to be quite brainwashed and stubborn. I see remarks on social media, and I know that some of them are by trolls and bots, but overall, just intuitively, I do not have faith in them. Just seeing everything that is happening. Of course, not to generalize, there are stories, there are people like this little girl, a schoolgirl, and her father who were imprisoned for just a drawing for support of Ukraine. And there are people who are imprisoned for protests. There are people who are sane there, of course, like in every country. But the majority seems to be so far gone that maybe it's a mistake, but I have very little desire to reach out, communicate, or show the film. I actually had a question from France because we have subtitles for the film now in Latvian, German, French, in English, of course, in Ukrainian, and somebody was asking me if we have subtitles in Russian to show it to the Russian speakers of their channel in France. And to be honest with you, I refused for now, at least, because that's not my target audience. I simply don't believe that it will change anything. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's very hard to have clarity of mind and impartiality on Russians when are you being targeted every hour. You know what I mean? And after having seen all of their war crimes, I don't feel that I have the clarity of mind when it comes to this sort of decision.
So, one short question, in your opinion, is this Putin's war or is this Russia's war?
I do believe in collective responsibility. I know very many very intelligent people I trust and respect who think otherwise, and we have arguments. I know many Ukrainians who do not believe in collective responsibility. I think it's a personal choice, right? Intellectual choice. I believe, and it's not only as it pertains to Russia, the same goes to America, to any country, really.
Considering that you are an American, I would like to ask you in the end of the interview what your thoughts are on the current U.S. policy towards Russia and Ukraine. Do you have any thoughts on this side, on this thing?
Of course, many thoughts as a citizen and many articles as a journalist, and I strongly disagree with the current government's internal and external policies. I did not vote for this government. I actually did a lot to stop this government from, coming to power. For years, I've been writing against the Republicans and against Donald Trump and his administration. I believe that they are complicit at this moment, and I strongly disagree and protest my government's policy. I don't even consider them my government at this point. I'm looking forward to the midterm elections, I voted from Ukraine. It wasn't very easy as an expatriate, but I went through all the steps and did send my vote, but it didn't work. And I just truly hope that we'll have another election, because it might not be on the menu. I don't know. It's a different story. It's probably not the time now to go into it. But as far as Ukraine is concerned, currently the United States of America is out. They are out. The government is not supporting Ukraine and doing everything to support Russia, if not in words, then in action.
And you have made documentaries, reported also from Ukraine many times. And considering that you are also a writer, can we expect maybe a book from you about what is happening in Ukraine?
I very much hope so. I have a draft. I'm trying to work on it, but it's kind of on the back burner because there's so much reporting going on daily that there's simply no time. But one way or another, I will finish the book about Kherson and maybe more about Ukraine. That's certainly in the plans. And thank you for asking about that.
Well, thank you for the interview, and I hope we will see many more stories from you, because it's important, the things you do for other people abroad, to see what's happening there. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Rihards. Thank you. And many thanks to Latvian people for their support of Ukraine.
Raidieraksts Drošinātājs.